Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today I thought we would do a little bit more of a look into the teaser trailer and talk about two vehicles specifically. The reason for this is because, at least in my opinion, they're two of the most interesting that are shown in the trailer. Yes, I know there was a lot of ships shown, but to be honest, since we don't have full confirmation what they are, I'm going to wait until they get announced to see what they are. So we're going to today be talking about the T-90A, which is what you see before you, and then also a Leopard 2A6, which was shown as well. Now, two things to mention before we go into this is two parts of contention, which have been in the previous video. I said this might be a new map. It ain't. I also mentioned it might just be Sansa Sinai. It is Sansa Sinai. So it's this tower in the middle. I couldn't remember seeing, but I did check the map out myself. So yeah, this is just Sansa Sinai. So that is that. Then this, when it comes to this image or this little part of the video, it was kind of interesting seeing a lot of people thinking this was a new Leopard, mainly because the machine gun is actually on the wrong side of the turret here. So that would mean that why would the machine gun be there? Then there was a lot of theories about, you know, is it a new Leopard? Is it a Leopard prototype because they had machine guns on the other side? No, it isn't. It's just a mirrored image. Like that's literally it. It's, if you have a look at like the things which are on the back of the Leopard 1 in game, they are completely, you know, the same. And then also people were looking here and saying, oh, is that an Italian flag? No, of course it's not. It's on the other side as well. You could see it on the Leopard 1 in game. There was some wonderful theories about this one, and I really enjoy like when people do a deep dive, but sometimes people go a little bit too crazy. So first of all, the T-90A. Now, the reason we know that this is the T-90A is because of the turret that it actually has here. The turret is slightly different compared to the other T-90. This one is a welded turret. You can tell by just the general shape of it. If you want to see a picture of it, this is a T-90A in obviously real life. And as I said, the major difference between it and many others is the full welded turret, and also it has obviously the standard 3 crew of every Soviet vehicle. It has an autoloader in a carousel fashion. It has access to the 125mm. The specific one it uses is the 2A46M5. If you want to have a look at which one that is in game, then obviously there are a bunch of 2A46s in game, all with separate looks at. The T-ATU uses the 2A46M1. The T-72B, though, the T-72B3 specifically, uses the 2A46M5. So that is the gun that you will be having a look at if you just transition quickly over to here, just to show you what I'm talking about. So yes, this thing uses the same gun as the T-72B3, this monster here, and therefore it should get very similar ammunition to all of the other Soviet MBTs that have this gun, or the 125 in general, since they're all pretty much designed to be able to use the same round. So you've got the Heat FS, the HE, the 3BM22, the 3BM42, which is a very good round, and then also the 9M1119 M1 as well. So that's basically where we're looking at when it comes to the characteristics of the gun. They should have exactly the same guns when it comes to the game and all of that stuff, so it should be able to fire exactly the same ammunition. Pretty much all of the 9.7, 10.7 MBTs for the Soviets can actually fire the same ammunition, so I don't know, or well, the same APF SDS, I should say. Obviously, other charges do slightly change, but when it comes to the T-90 here, I would be incredibly surprised if it would have different APF SDS, unless what they want to do to make it have like its unique thing, unless they want to give it a better round, which are available, you know, in the Soviet arsenal. Maybe maybe that's the idea, but at least for right now, that's what we can go off. The other things is it does have Contact 5, which, you know, is similar to the T-72B 1989, and obviously, once again, stuff like the T-72B3 and the T-80U, until on the T-72B3, you know, you have additional relic added to that with the upgrade. But generally, the protection of this, when it comes to its external, should just be seen as Contact 5. Another thing also, when it comes to this machine, it is a lot lighter than other MBTs when it comes to other nations. That is something we've talked about before with Soviet MBTs. This thing is 9 tons lighter than a Leclerc, and it is 16 tons lighter than an M1A2, and also the Leopard 2A6. So this thing is not a chunky boy, mainly because it's a lot smaller. You may have seen, if you've seen them in War Thunder, seen Soviet vehicles run around compared to, you know, let's class them as NATO MBTs. NATO MBTs are just a lot larger than their Soviet counterparts. The main selling point of this thing, though, because a lot of the characteristics that it has are very similar to other vehicles we have in game. You know, it has a thermal gunner sight, it has the mobility, which is very similar to other Soviet MBTs. It has the protection, or at least should have the protection, which is similar to other Soviet MBTs, if not a little bit worse than a few of them, but it's still going to have the same weak spots, the low glacis, the driver's ports, and also maybe even the gunner's port for certain ammunition choices. It'll still have the road wheel issues, all of that stuff. One of the things to mention about this machine, which does set it apart from some of its counterparts, is the APS system, or the ADS system. The ADS system, or the ADS, is an active defense system, and on this one it has access to the Storer 1. Now, we don't have these systems in game yet, and it was a theory made that the reason why we didn't have the T90 in game, especially the T90A, was they were going to add it when these systems are ready, so therefore that would be its big selling point, because right now it really is, if it's just added to the game, another Soviet MBT. There is not a lot to it compared to, you know, other vehicles, which is massively different. But the Storer 1 active defense system is something which is different. It's a system which is completely designed to protect the tank from guided missiles. It uses semi-active command line of sight, or line of sight, so SACLOS guidance. It also has the IR source that mimics the flare on the back of the missiles, as well as the laser beam riders and laser homing weapons. It should be effective against missiles such as stuff like TOWs, HOTS, 84s, 85s, SAGAs, all of that good stuff. And it's also something which makes it have this wonderful look on it, which gives it, of course, the red eyes of death. So yeah, also when it comes to the system itself, it also should have some capabilities to counter stuff like laser-guided munitions and ATGMs, so Hellfires, Cornets, but it's not known entirely what it can do. Obviously, being a very modern vehicle, the T-90A itself entering service in 2004, sometimes, well, a lot of the time, knowing a lot of information about these things is not exactly easy. So just understand it does have systems which are designed to be able to annihilate anti-tank stuff when it comes to missiles and when it comes to other things. The main problem of this is obviously in War Thunder that doesn't exist yet. Those systems don't have a large place in the game, but maybe that is the next new mechanic for top tier, which would, you know, benefit a lot of these MBTs. They did say that this was going to be one of the biggest, or if not the biggest, patches of War Thunder history. And there is going to be a lot to it. Already, just with the teaser trailer, with the large ships, with these new MBTs, it's going to shake up a lot of top tiers, and it's going to shake up a lot of things when it comes to graphics and stuff like that. Another thing I also want to mention while we're here is there was a site, a Russian site, which was talking about the release of release of War Thunder on PlayStation 5 on launch, and also Xbox Series X. It's part of the launch lineups, and therefore it's quite important to get this update right and to make sure it has some pretty cool swanky graphics. And in this article they actually show some pretty cool images. So here is, of course, the Draken, which we already have in game. Then we also have the MiG-21. This, I believe, is the F-13 version, so you can see the new graphics that are going to come in and how beautiful it is. And then, of course, the teaser of the T-90, specifically the T-90A, which you can tell by the turret itself. As I said, like, you can compare it to this and just see how very similar it is. So yeah, there are some cool new pictures. I'll make sure to leave a link in the description so you can have a look at them and all of that good stuff. But yeah, the T-90, if it isn't given the active defense system, it should play very similarly to a lot of the other, Soviet MBTs. The only question is, what BR do you give it? I think it's going to be a 10.0, 10.3 vehicle. The T-80U and the T-72B3, at least in my opinion, will still be better than this vehicle, but obviously we'll have to see its armor values and all of that other good stuff. Now, the other one that we are going to talk about is, of course, this guy. Now, when you look at this, it is quite hard to look at this and go, oh, okay, well, this is just another 2A5, right? It's nothing new. Wrong. This is slightly different to the 2A5 that we have in game, and you can tell by the barrel. Now, it's quite hard to distinguish a lot of, let's call them modern MBTs, in my opinion. A lot of them, when it comes to different variations, can be quite hard to do. But when we look at this machine, if you have a look here on the gun itself, you can see there is kind of a ring around the gun. Now, if we have a look at this, which is a Leopard 2A6, you can see the ring here. If you have a look at this, once again, ring is shown. And then on the 2A5, there is no such thing. And if you want confirmation in game of what I'm talking about, so in game, if we just switch over to War Thunder quickly, if you have a look at the 2A5, it doesn't have this slight ring on its gun. And basically, that is one of the major physical differences that you can tell just by, quickly looking at the vehicles. Which one is which. So you see, here is the Leopard 2A5 with the L44, and there is no ring here on the barrel at all. So therefore, this is the L44 version, not the L55. Now, you can actually upgrade a lot of the Leopard 2s with L55 guns, but generally that is not happening. Instead, they're just moving on to other products, such as we said, the Leopard 2A6. So what is the Leopard 2A6? The best way to describe it is an improved armor version of the 2A5, which also houses the 120mm L55 gun. Now, the L55 is a longer barrel. It is designed to be able to engage at longer ranges and also be more accurate. The closest gun, I suppose, we have in game to that is the CV90-120, which fires, obviously, the Doom round, if you want to call it that. But you have obviously the 122 with the L44, and then you have the CV90-120. This has access to the L50-120, which is made by BAE Systems. So yeah, this is the closest we have to the gun, but it isn't exactly perfect because of the fact that it is still shorter than the L55 gun, and this fires this round, which is the classic LOL pen round, which I've been having a lot of fun with when it comes to the Ariete. So what you're going to get out of this vehicle the 2A6 is increased performance when it comes to its gun. It'll probably get some better ammunition and slightly improved armor on the whole, but the armor that a lot of the versions of the 2A6, because we don't know which version of the 2A6 is, as I said, Leopard development is incredibly confusing because you have so many variants, so many countries which use this thing. It is a very, very well-known vehicle, but also there are so many nuances to it. But it should have commander's thermals, should have gunner's thermals, should have all of those nice things, and also increased crew protection from, other stuff, maybe even anti-tank mines, but it should have a little bit of extra armor on its turret and also on its hull as well. The L55 itself, when it comes to the gun, should fire, as I talked about, it should be more accurate, it also should be able to pen more, all of these wonderful things, and it obviously uses mainly composite armor to keep itself alive, and this thing is highly classified. So trying to find out numbers when it comes to its armor is completely useless, and also even the rounds that this thing fires in the modern day are quite hard to track when it comes to actual numbers. The only thing that isn't really improved over the 2A5 that we have in game compared to it is the engine. The engine stays at a 1500 horsepower. It's the same engine or a similar engine, the MTU MB873KA501 diesel. It's an engine that you can pretty much chuck any fuel into it and it'll still be able to move about. But generally, it is, 1500 horsepower. So it's got increased weight, but also not increased engine power. So we'll have to see if that affects its mobility. It shouldn't that much because the engine itself is an incredibly good engine. I wouldn't worry too much about that thing. So yeah, that is the Leopard 2A6. It's just going to be a beefier, meaner 2A5 when it comes to the game, and that is quite scary because the 2A5 already is pretty strong, and the STRV 122, arguably the best tank in the game, which is a Leopard 2A4 improved with additional armor to the on the Swedish vehicle. To me, you marry that with this better gun, you've got a hell of a vehicle, and that is what we might be looking at. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Trigger Hippie, Universe, Conte Baraka, Elove Goat, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Hans, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.